Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. He's the founder of the Article 3 Project, and he's a rebel rouser. You're out there starting trouble, Mike, with everybody on the Twitters, on the X. These idiots really believe that you're going to lock up like Joy Reid. What is wrong? First of all, it's Mike Davis. Mike, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, and happy Easter to you.
Well, happy Easter, and hopefully you had plenty of trans people visible to you yesterday, because that was the day we can see them. Did you know that? You can't see them otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, we have 365 days in the year, and we have two Christian holidays, Christmas and Easter. Easter is the most sacred, the most holy day of the year for Christians, and we have 100 days for LGBTQ plus, and
right.
They couldn't pick another day. We had to proclaim Transgender Day, another Transgender Day, because there are several on Easter Sunday, and they could say, well, Biden's been doing this on March 31st for 3 years. Okay, do you think there's any chance that President Biden would have announced this Transgender Day on a Muslim holiday? And what about how do they respond to the fact that Biden would not allow religious Easter eggs at the Easter egg roll at the White House? I mean, this is just nonsense. This is in your face. I always say that there is a very big difference between people with gender dysphoria, which is a very serious and sad mental illness, versus trans ideology, where you're trying to push this ideology, especially on kids who, kids grow up confused. The fact that you're pushing trans ideology on kids, and then you want to push gender-affirming care, pills and surgeries on these kids, is monstrous.
It is Mike Davis, Article 3 Project. So it's not going to be on Eid or Ramadan, you don't think?
Yeah, I can't imagine that Biden would ever say, my Muslim American supporters who I'm angering with the Israeli conflict, and I'm going to lose Michigan over this. I was gonna keep this holiday on your Muslim holiday, but I decided to keep it on your Muslim holiday because that's what I've done for the last 3 years. There's no chance in hell that would have happened.
Not a chance. It's like Queers for Palestine. I love that sign that I see all the time as well. It's Mike Davis. Mike, by the way, he's a really good Catholic, but Karine Jean-Pierre told us today he's not going to politicize his religion. So he has to completely forget his religious beliefs, if we believe that those are his beliefs, and have Transgender Visibility Day on Easter, and let's kill more babies. Abortion on demand in the birth canal. But he's not going to press his Christian beliefs onto policy. So policy-wise, you can be the devil and be a far left-wing Marxist idiot, but when he's at home, he's a really good Catholic. We're supposed to believe that.
I was born and raised Catholic. I need to be a better Catholic. I'm kind of a fallen-out Catholic. But I would say this. The idea that Joe Biden thinks he's a devout Catholic is just laughable. He is pushing abortions up until the moment of birth, right? So I just don't think that falls in line with Catholic faith and doctrine. And I would just say this, that these people who push this trans ideology, especially on kids, this is their religious cult.
Yes, it is. It's their religion, without a doubt. But I am going to try to get a hold of the guy that started this in Michigan in 2009. Some doofus dressed up like a woman and then announced that it's Trans Visibility Day or Trans Day of Visibility, and the entire globe said, okay, let's do what this guy says. Mike, how do you think that really happens? Does some globalist get a hold of Greta Thunberg and say, okay, you're a 14, 15-year-old idiot in Sweden. Let's use you as the face of global climate change. And then they get this guy in the middle of Michigan who's clearly demented. He's got a real problem. And he comes up with this day of visibility, and the entire globe says, yeah, let's do it. How do you think that really goes on? Do they pick and choose somebody and then inject $1 billion to promote this?
This is all about chaos by the left. This is right out of their playbook. They want to divide and conquer people. As I said, gender dysphoria is a very serious and sad mental illness. We need to treat these people. We don't need to affirm their mental illness, get them riled up, thinking that the world's going to kill them, and then turn them loose on the world. We need to get them treatment. And what the left is doing to people with gender dysphoria is sickening. And what the left is doing with trans ideology, where they're trying to confuse kids that they're trans and then get them gender-affirming care with pills and surgeries for the rest of their lives. That, again, that is monstrous. There aren't going to be any tomboys left in America because they're going to be gobbled up by the trans lobby.
Tomboys? No, you got to give them some medication. So either way, listen, happy TDV yesterday on top of Easter. Mike, let's talk about this judge. Is it Judge Reggie Walton? He's the D.C. district guy. He decided he would go on network television and start commentary, like on a case that's in court right now. Is it only unethical or is it also unlawful for him to do that?
Well, it's clearly unethical. It clearly violates Canon 3A6 of the Code of Conduct for United States Judges. The Article 3 project, the group I lead, we're working on a judicial misconduct complaint as we speak against this judge. I mean, what kind of horrific judgment does a judge have where he thinks he can go on CNN and talk about a criminal defendant in a separate criminal case? President Trump faces 4 different criminal cases right now, and this federal judge in D.C. thinks he can go on CNN and trash President Trump and say that he's essentially, advocating for violence against judges and their families just because President Trump is raising a very legitimate concern about judicial bias by one of these judges. This judge in New York, Judge Merchan, his adult daughter is a political consultant who has made a lot of money consulting for Kamala Harris, maybe Joe Biden, definitely the DNC, and many others. Does she have a financial stake in this presidential election? And does that create the actual or apparent a conflict of interest for this Judge Merchan in New York, where he should use good judgment and recuse from this case and hand over this case to another judge? But when President Trump raises this issue of potential judicial bias, this federal judge in D.C. goes on CNN and says that President Trump is essentially threatening this judge and his family. That is nonsense. That is inexcusable for this judge to do this. He's tainting the jury pool, and he's commenting about a matter that's a clear violation of the judicial canons, and that's why the Article 3 project is going to file a judicial complaint against this judge in D.C.
Article3project.org. Go there and go support what Mike does, the great folks over at the Article 3 Project. So he should recuse, not gonna. Fani Willis should recuse, not gonna. Should be kicked off the case, hasn't been yet. Maybe it will happen. The left doesn't do it. The left thinks we can do anything we want. It's almost like Jamie Raskin, who is an election denier, complaining that people are denying the last election when he did it, consistently. He certainly did it in 16 vehemently. So what is it going to take, in your opinion, Mike, for us in this country to say, enough, they can't have different rules over there? Because they do. We know that they do. Without a doubt, they do. As you and I speak today, this judge is still on the bench. Willis is still in charge of the prosecution. Alvin Bragg still has a case that doesn't make any sense. They're still letting people out and dropping, 60% of all felonies down to misdemeanors and letting people go in New York City, and the crime is going through the roof. They have different rules on their side. What does it take? What mechanism is in place legally, in your opinion, to fix this now? Enough is enough.
Well, I'll tell you, at the Article 3 project, we have been constantly defending President Trump and supporting President Trump against this Democrat lawfare and election interference for the last nearly 2 years. And we've had a big impact. We've changed the politics where this Democrat lawfare and election interference is not going to take out President Trump. It's actually helping him, right? We're turning lemons into lemonade. And I would say that now that the politics have changed, thanks to the Article 3 project and our more than 3,000 media hits since the Mar-a-Lago raid, our constant social media presence, our constant writing of opinion pieces, we've changed the political dynamics of this. So I would hope that these Republican politicians, these Republican DAs, these Republican state attorneys general, these Republican members of Congress, including in the House where they actually control subpoena power, you would think that they would actually find the courage now that the politics have changed where they can step up more and do more. But I'll tell you, how this is going to end is on November 5th, 2024, when the American people say, no, Democrats, prosecutors, and other lawyers and judges, you don't get to decide the next presidential election. These Democrat judges and prosecutors and lawyers and juries and witnesses in these Democrat hellholes like New York, D.C., and Atlanta don't get to decide the election. The American people do. And when the American people come out in droves and vote on November 5th, 2024. That's how this election interference and lawfare is going to end.
It's Mike Davis, the founder of the President Article 3 Project. Go to article3project.org, Article 3, the number 3 project.org. Mike, do you believe, like I do, that there is a push by rhino Republicans, by Democrats, by Marxists to get more people to resign from the House, to possibly give the House the majority back to the Democrats, let Hakeem Jeffries take up Jamie Raskin's bill to keep Donald Trump off the ballot? Do you think they're trying to do that? To me, it feels like, I don't know, maybe Paul Ryan from afar is pushing these people, because the last guy is from Wisconsin. This is Mike Gallagher. He's pushing these people to resign early, and Gallagher's doing so that you can't even have a special election to replace him by November. Do you think that they're playing that game or not?
Yes, and I would say go to article3project.org and go to and click on Take Action and go to the Mike Gallagher action page, where we can light up Mike Gallagher's office, call his office with patch-through phone calls that we've set up, with emails, with social media, and tell him if he's not going to finish his term, resign now. I think the deadline's like April 9th, and in just about a week, where if he resigns before April 9th, they can have a special election, and his constituents back in Wisconsin will have a representative in the House of Representatives to represent them. Otherwise, if he resigns after April 9th, I believe is the date, that seat's not going to get filled, and Mike Gallagher's constituents in Wisconsin will not have representation in Washington in the House of Representatives for nearly 10 months. That is inexcusable.
It is.
That Mike Gallagher's doing this. Why does he not want his constituents, who he's supposed to represent, why does he not want them to have a representative in the House of Representatives?
Well, it sounds rhetorical, but it's because, I'll say it for the audience, because he hates Trump more than he likes his constituents. He hates Trump more than he believes that he has a duty to those who elected him. That's why. And it might be the 19th, but I want people to go and check. It's either the 9th or the 19th. I'm not sure. But the fact is, he has every ability to right now make sure that his district gets represented through the rest of the year. If he does this after that date, whatever it happens to be, then you're right. They get no representation until January 1st next year, or January 3rd, whatever it happens to be. So, I mean, is there something that Mike Johnson can do? Can he bring up a vote to expel the guy? I mean, they got rid of Santos, who they should have, by the way, kept, because he would have been reliable in voting for the conservative stuff.
Well, this is why it's important for conservatives, for right-thinking independents, even right-thinking Democrats, to understand that elections have consequences. And if you don't show up and vote because you're angry about something, that means the Marxist left gets more power. Republicans have a razor-thin majority in the House of Representatives. And so all they can really do is stop what the Biden White House and the Biden Democrat Senate want to get done. And if they lose that, if Republicans lose that majority, I mean, especially if Democrats know that Trump's going to win on November 5th, 2024, they're going to try to jam through as much as they can this year,
right,
including nuking the legislative filibuster, lowering the vote threshold from 60 to 50 plus the vice president and the Senate. And they could jam through a lot between a Democrat-controlled House after these Republicans resigned, a Democrat-controlled Senate, and President Biden, who thinks, okay, if I'm going to lose anyway, I have nothing to lose.
It is Mike Davis. So it looks like he's going to lose, or if he does lose, is he going to pardon himself and his whole family? What do you think?
Well, I mean, probably, because you know what? If the Biden Democrats, if Biden himself is going to bring 4 criminal indictments against President Trump for these non-crimes, this bogus lawfare and election interference, somehow I seriously doubt that Trump's going to turn the other cheek when he's back in the White House.
Well, what's interesting is when he won in 2016, and I think we've talked about this before, I distinctly remember somebody saying, are you going to go after Hillary Clinton now and Bill Clinton now, as you said you would in the campaign trail? And he said, no, we won. That's behind us. Leave them alone now. He literally said that. And I guess he didn't realize how dastardly and disgusting the other side is. It's Mike Davis, article3project.org. Mike, I'm told that it's a conspiracy if I bring up the fact that there were problems with mail-in ballots in 2020. It's no longer conspiracy as more evidence continues to come in. What happened in Fulton County? They should not have certified?
Well, it looks like evidence just came out, and I think it was Jeff Clark's disbarment hearing, that they didn't even do signature verification in 2020.
Wow.
For the presidential election. So what that means is that Democrats illegally, unconstitutionally used COVID to change election laws. They mass mailed these live ballots out to the voter list, including old voter list, where, for example, college students move every year from dorm to dorm or apartment to apartment. And the only way you can really stop voter fraud, I've done this for 5 election cycles in Colorado as a volunteer election lawyer when they went to all mail ballots in Colorado. This is how Colorado went from a deep red state to a deep blue state, was all mail ballots.
Right.
The only way you can stop voter fraud with all mail ballots is to have signature verification and election observers, people who can make sure that they're actually doing signature verification. And in Fulton County, they threw out the election observers because of COVID. Those are the evidence gatherers. And then the Democrats claimed there was no evidence. Well, no kidding. You threw out the evidence gatherers. And now we're finding out that they got rid of signature verification. So it's when in the legal system, when you destroy or hide or withhold evidence, it's called spoliation of evidence. And you can presume, the judge orders the jury to presume that if there's spoliation of evidence, if evidence is hidden, withheld, destroyed, you can presume that evidence was bad for the person who hid, withheld, and destroyed the evidence.
Right. But only if you're even-handed. I mean, it's the left again. And Mike, it's very interesting. I mean, because I've been saying this on my show since day one. People say, Pags, it was a free and fair election, the freest and most secure election ever. And my question is always, in the states where they accepted mail-in ballots or didn't do it by the law that was passed by the legislature, those states should not have counted any of the mail-in ballots, period. It's constitutional. The legislatures have to do it, not secretaries of state, not attorneys general, not governors, not lieutenant governors. It's got to be done through the legislature, and if it wasn't, not one of those votes should have been counted in those states where it wasn't law. And if you take all those away, Biden loses badly. So there is proof. There's been proof this entire time. Will something get done about it? Probably not. I've only got about 30, 35 seconds. Mike, please tell me why Fannie Fawny, whatever, is still on this case, and will she end up being the prosecutor on this case?
Well, it looks like she's still on this case because this Kemp judge down in Georgia, Scott McAfee, blanks, right? There's clear evidence that Fannie Willis had a financial stake in this criminal prosecution, which is absolutely illegal. She was taking illegal kickbacks from her boyfriend, her dumb, unqualified boyfriend she hired as her special prosecutor. He took her on lavish trips, but this judge blanked. It's going to get reversed on appeal, but the problem is this trial is going to interfere in the election. And I would also say this one last thing about signature verification. Apparently in Fulton County, Georgia, COVID changes your signature, and that's why you had to get rid of signature verification.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, I mean, it changes a lot of things. It changes the outcome of elections.
Well, Mike, it doesn't change the fact that you're on it, and I love that you're on it. Go to article3project.org, support everything he does. Follow him everywhere online as well. Mike, thanks a million.
Thank you.
All right, brother, we're back after this. Stay right here.